kiss me and kiss me tonight. Kiss me and kiss me and kiss me and kiss me with a bite. Kiss me and kiss me and kiss me and kiss me tonight, tomorrow, today, right now. Kiss me right there, softly, by me, roughly, holy. Kiss me in the face, kiss me in lace. I don't care your race, I want your embrace. Yeah, I'm really about to be this kiss. I embody the practice of vulnerable desire. I have the wisdom to know when to invite another to that practice. I'm so healed from not knowing how sacred sex is. I have intimacy intelligence and communicate with soft confidence, and I listen with empathy. I am committed to feeling like a kiss, like a real good kiss. Vulnerability is the only gig in town he and I must employ accordingly. The divine never craves. I release the crave I've learned in this life. I shall desire, I shall feel worthy, I shall know myself free in my body. I shall embody my feminine. I am unlearning practices of avoidances that keep my heart closed. All the enculturation that puts me under the spell to claim not needing a man. I got it by myself. I don't need anyone. I send it back to the underworld it came from. It's the most feminine thing I can do, to advocate for my feminine intelligence to be free. I am not ashamed of my heart's desire for a kiss, for partnership, to be touched, to receive, and to share, and to advocate for my desires with him. I won't close myself off with perpetual suspicion. I won't cop out. Love won't enter a fortress, but it flows in openness. I know my real work is to soften, so I can be deepened with openness to receive. I'm budding to thriving in my femininity, and it feels so romantic. I ooze feminine frequency vibes. My kiss sound like a woman. I choose to clear all perceptions that blind me from seeing opportunities to embrace love and vulnerability in real time. Vulnerability is my forever flex. Kiss me, kiss me, kiss me.
Hello, Alex, and welcome everybody back to Pulsation Nation. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Queen Osset. Just another beautiful day in South Florida. How you doing today?
I'm marvelous. I'm marvelous. I'm looking forward to this conversation because I really feel like we touched on some things in the last episode that could use a bit of expounding upon, not to be redundant, but definitely want to sort of stretch out some of the information that we touched on in the last episode, beginning with archetypes and the types of people that we find ourselves in the midst of.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting conversation because I never thought of archetypes being so, how can I say, structured in a way of how we go about with our everyday life. So this is definitely an interesting topic.
I would dare say that you have thought about it because you asked me about my zodiac sign before, have you not?
Yes, I have. So the zodiac, I don't know why I separated zodiac from archetype, because when I was diving deep into it, it was like going into different, I won't say personalities, but just who you'd be able to resonate with these different characters. So yeah, it was just, when I hear zodiac, it sounds more personal. So that's just my opinion.
But that's what archetypes are, personality types. So it is personal. It's very personal. And depending upon the frequency that we're vibrating on, we attract the people that we find ourselves with in our lives. And I would dare say even our parents, because we are vibrational frequency. So whether we're in a physical body or not, we still exist. So there's some elders that have a belief that as, newborns, we actually choose our parents. So those are the first people that we choose to be around, depending upon the frequency that we're coming back on, the frequency that we are, and the frequency of those people, the parents.
Interesting. So where do we start with this? Because I have notes from the whole Afrocentric guide down to the, my zodiac sign being Gemini. I mean, where are we starting with?
Well, this is yours and my conversation. We invite the public in just for them to, play voyeur, but this is about you and I just having a conversation. So if I just met you
Exactly.
on the street and we sat down and had lunch and we decided to start talking about the types of people that we have in our lives or don't have in our lives, or that experience, that's kind of the direction we might, create a focus so that we can, in the interest of time, have a particular idea in mind when we come to the table to have this conversation. And but other than that, there's no structure. It's just a conversation between you and I, and you just pretend we're having a conversation. So just jump out there and say whatever it is you want to say,
I
because
got
that's
it.
what this is about.
I got it. I got it. I'm already in my personality of archetype of things because I'm a much more structured person. So it's like, okay, of course we want to talk freely, but starting with your zodiac sign, you did mention about that, and you mentioned it quite a few times. The Scorpio. Is there anything that resonate with you on that?
That resonates with me about being a Scorpio.
Exactly.
Well, the universe basically answered that question for you. That is my resonant tone. That's everybody is basically made up of the stars and the planets that were in alignment in the position that they were in at the time that you were born. So it sort of molds you and shapes you. And your personality type has been decoded by our ancestors who sat around and hundreds of years passed, and there were entire families that was their profession, to watch the stars and the moons and the planet. So this is not a new science. It's a very, very, very ancient science. So all we have to do now is continue that, information and pass it down and do our best not to alter it, because we're not sitting around watching the stars for our profession all day, every day, the way our ancestors did. So it would make the most sense for us to just take their information. So there are some things about Scorpio that are precise, but I didn't ever study astrology. So I understand that there's other complementary factors. The fact that we have extracted just one aspect and that's the sun sign. The Scorpio is the sun sign, but I understand there's a moon sign, there's a rising sign, there's all different types of elements involved. I'm having my chart done. I've had a chart done before, but I didn't really understand it since I didn't really study. So I think that in our infancy of understanding these things, we have a tendency to just pull out certain parts of it, the easiest to understand, and say, oh, you're a Scorpio. But I do think that's the more simplified version, because if there's only 12 archetypes in the sun sign astrology and there's billions of people on the planet, then naturally, if every single one of us is unique, we're not just going to be a Scorpio. We're going to be a
Exactly.
Scorpio with all these different complementary elements, because there's more than one planet. And if Scorpio is the sun sign, then where were the other planets when I was born? Where was Pluto? Where was and I have a Bagua chart that actually tells me all those things, but I don't know how to translate it.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the personality of things. When I express that I'm a Gemini, the book of how can I say, assumption that has been thrown at me, in the sense of, you're a Gemini, you bipolar. So I was like, anyone that mentioned Gemini, you bipolar. And I was like, wait, slow it down. That's not true. Okay, I'm not just bipolar. It doesn't run like that. Well, you got a twin sign. I was like, well, from my understanding, yeah, I've noticed that one way I'm very, how can I say, athletic in my football and, my studies in school. And then the next minute, I'm just a quiet, private person in certain ways. but I have noticed to bring the twin sign together recently. So I'm not so much into the zodiac studies. I just know with when it comes to who am I, what's my purpose here. Um, happen to be in June, Gemini, and what are, let me pull out the optimistic attributes in Gemini and make the best out of it. So
Yeah, it's also good to look at the shadow, and if the shadow part of the archetype is something that one needs to work on, you would need to know what it is in order to know that you work on it. And the person that said you're bipolar, that's the thing that I mentioned, that we just take the easiest part and just throw it out there. I don't think a person that's an adept in astrology, that knows astrology, would ever say anything like that.
yeah.
So because they realize that the complexity of each individual is varying. Because although the sisterhood that I mentioned that I just joined, they recognize that my date of birth and my sun sign is Scorpio. They knew that there was other elements to me that were not just Scorpio. They were like, you got some Virgo in you somewhere. And one of the sisters is an adept in astrology.
Nice.
So, and I don't really know what that means, because honestly, I don't really understand the sun signs unless I have that person in my life. So I don't really study or get to know the personality types of people's zodiac signs that I don't come across. I seem to come across the same types of people, and that's what the whole frequency thing is. The whole compatibility element of knowing the types of people, so that you're not just blindly bumping your way through life trying to figure out, you know, what kind of people are these around me? How do I have a great relationship with them if I don't understand them? So if I were developing a school or an education system, I would definitely put this in the early stages of growth and development, along with understanding our bodies, of course. But part of understanding our physical body is understanding our etheric body, which is our spirit body, or our body that we cannot see, which carries these personality types.
Interesting. Very interesting. So you mentioned about the relations with people that you're around with. It's not to say that you're going to be able to read the person exactly, but like, how would you know like who's for you and not in the realm of understanding their sign or by the month of their birthday?
Well, because I do honor the wisdom of my ancestors, it would not have served me to not learn any cosmology system. So I spent 5 years as an apprentice learning the Olmec Mayan um, cosmology system. And in that science, I did over 300, charts for different people, and studied under a master teacher during the time that I was in Atlanta. And I understood compatibility so much better. And, I'm sure it complements the astrology, but the Mayan cosmology system is not based on the sun cycles, it's based on the moon cycles. And so it's on a 13 moon, because the moon circulates the earth 13 times a year. So, so that is the system that I learned. And in that system, based on your date of birth, it doesn't have anything to do with the time. There's a chart, and when I look at the Olmec Mayan cosmology calendar and system, it looks very similar to me to the Chinese calendar. We spoke a little bit about that in our last episode, but you see the hieroglyphic symbols of animals and so forth, and just different symbols that look, different than a human figure. So I think that's why, although the sun calendar zodiac uses figures and figures of human beings. I think there's still symbols that don't require a human figure. For instance, the symbol for Libra is the scales. And, so archetypes don't necessarily have to be in a human form, but I think as human beings, we want to see everything in a human form. We want to see our God in a human form. We want to see everything that we can relate to in a human form. But I don't think that's necessary. So you see these other symbols from other worlds and other cultures, and we find that it's intimidating to us. We don't understand it. Some people, and demonize it because it doesn't look familiar to them, and it looks scary because we have been sort of brainwashed to think that only one way is the right way. Yeah, and that's not true, because there's billions of people on the planet, and we all have such a unique experience, each individual person, that to think that one way is only the right way, I think that's the only wrong way to think. Like to think that there's only one way. So the Olmec Mind cosmology system, under that system, I am a white resonant mirror, and white is for the direction north. Resonant is my tone, it's the vibration, and that's the 7th tone. So the archetype image, it looks like the view from the sky of a step pyramid. That's what it looks like. But it's also called the mirror, and its symbolism is a sword and a mirror, and it represents our reflection and being able to look at our reflection honestly and truthfully and determine for ourselves whether or not we are operating in balance or out of balance, or in my art or out of my art. So a lot of times when the mirror shows up, it's not a very welcome archetype. So that's the thing. That's the energy I get, a lot of times, because I'm so detail oriented. I do look at things closely. I am very analytical. I look at things deeply. I am, according to some people, too deep. I'm not a shallow person by any means. And I just want to be able to understand things fully. So I go deep, and deeper than what comfort will allow. Like, I don't try to stay comfortable. It's never been almost like a child learning to walk. Like, I would not have been the child that was afraid because I might fall, and very few children are, because we are courageous when we're babies. And, some things, fear sort of keeps us and obstructs us from moving forward. But I've never been one of those people. So, fear of going too deep has never been my thing.
Yeah.
So I'm a white resonant mirror in the Olmec Mind cosmology system.
I want to add that the isnab and the kin, like the isnab is the sound, if I'm correct, right?
Etsnab is the archetype.
Is the archetype.
That's the name of the white mirror.
Okay.
Etsnab. And it's number 18 out of 20. So instead of
20. Okay.
Yeah, instead of 12 zodiac signs, the Olmec Mind cosmology system has 20 archetypes.
Okay. So there is a difference between what came out for me, which was the white overtone mirror, correct? Than what you have, correct?
I'm sorry, what's the question again?
The question is that I'm asking, like, you was reading the Mayan reading, if I'm not mistaken. It's called what's it called?
Olmec Mind cosmology.
Yes. And you're reading.
You could use either Mayak or Olmec or Mayan, but a lot of people, I associate them both with each other because people know Mayan cosmology by familiarization, but as a African indigenous woman, a Kemetic indigenous woman, I always want to remind people of the origins of things and not to wipe out our ancestors. So our ancestors in this continent were called the Olmecs. But
Okay.
Go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get familiar with, when I got back a reading last year, it came with the white overtone mirror, Isnam 5. Ken 18. So the Ken I'm getting familiar with, that's like the time, if I'm not mistaken. But the Islam 5, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is tailored to a sound, or what is that maybe tailored to?
What is your date of birth again? I just want to double check that because I thought I had done a full reading for you.
Mm-hmm.
I may or may not have. So there's an app because this is a common cosmology system that a lot of people are familiar with. So we do have an app,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just checking, double checking.
Which is
So
fine.
the daykeeper that you're giving me may have been the date that the reading that I gave you.
Okay.
So yeah, so usually when I give someone their signature reading, it's usually an entire document, 13 pages long. So I think that if I go back and look at, cause you didn't get that, you're not getting this information from that, right? You're getting this from an email that I sent you about another reading, right?
Correct. It
Yeah. So
just,
that, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to be able to express that the white overtone mirror, I'm not sure like what are the different types, like how you have the zodiac sign we were just covering, where you have the, the Capricorn, the Aquarius, Gemini, Scorpio. It just, when it comes to the Mayan, if I pronounce it correctly, you know, I came back a white overtone mirror. So I wasn't sure like what are the different types when you was reading about yours a few seconds ago.
That's what I'm saying, Alex. I don't think that's your Mayan signature.
Mm,
It's not the white overtone mirror because I
okay.
just double checked it on the app.
Uh-huh.
Your galactic signature, let me see. Your galactic signature is actually the blue solar hand. So
Blue
that's what I'm
solar.
telling you. You didn't come back as a mirror. You came back as a blue hand. So
Mm,
that is your archetype.
got it. All right.
And the tone, so if it's the blue solar hand,
Mm-hmm.
the second word in that signature, that's your entire signature. Blue is the direction, solar is the tone and the vibration, and the hand is the archetype.
Okay, got it.
So I'm going to commit myself to doing your signature reading so that you can understand more about that archetype. But the blue hand, basically, if I could sum it up, it represents healing. It represents abundance. If you think about an open hand,
Mm-hmm.
people, consider hands to be healing depending upon the person. And then the variation, the fact that you're the solar hand, the solar tone is the ninth tone. That has a whole vibration. There's a book called The Mayan Oracle, and it gives you more information about the archetypes. So if you ever want to learn more about it, I'll do your chart. But if the chart still doesn't tell you everything about it, it's a brief 13-page document. But if you want to study it the way I studied it, because it's extensive, it's a high science. So it like astrology, it's a high science, and we just try to simplify it and make it relatable to people so that they can know the basics. So as a blue hand, your compatibility would be people that show up as the blue knight, people that show up as the yellow human, the white wizard, or the red earth. And that is your family. And a lot of times you'll attract those people to you. And they have different energies. So when I say complementary, it doesn't also always mean that it's good or bad. And that's the thing with high sciences, they're never extreme. They're never good or bad, to do, to not do. It's never that. There's so much complexity in our universe that we as humans have sort of dumbed ourselves down so much that we always want the easy answer. So does that mean it's good or bad? Is that good or bad? But so if you meet a person in your analog direction, a lot of times that can be a complimentary, a good compliment to you. But on the shadow side, it can be you can become too complacent. It's
Okay.
too easy. It's too, so that red earth person would be a person that you would migrate towards, and it would be so comfortable and so easy. that it wouldn't push you to be your greatest self,
Wow.
you know, but it would be easy to stay in it because it's just so easy. On the other hand, the yellow human, the yellow human represents the will. Um, they might push you to do some things that you're not comfortable with, and a lot of times when people are not comfortable with people pushing them to be greater or to do more, in their mind, that means we're not compatible. That means, oh, you know, you and I don't get along because, you know, you don't accept me for who I am. But
Mm.
the truth of the matter is that person's personality type or archetype was put here on this planet to push you, because being complacent stops you from growing, you know. So a lot of times that whole idea of compatibility, if we understood these archetypes a little bit more in these high sciences that our ancestors left for us, we wouldn't be so quick to discredit something and throw it away and discard it because it feels a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
As you know, just like I mentioned earlier, giving birth is very uncomfortable. But what would happen if all the women on the planet decided that giving birth is way too uncomfortable? We are not going to do that anymore.
Wow.
There would not be any more human beings.
Nope.
And even the babies, you know, the babies, it's painful for the baby too. You know, so it's an entirely uncomfortable situation, but we push through, don't we?
Yeah.
So if you're in a relationship with someone and they make you a little bit uncomfortable because they're pushing you to be greater and to be better, and they say that they love you, of course, you would look for other signs of their love, and they wouldn't just be driving you like a slave or anything like that. I think everyone could tell the difference. But the whole idea of understanding archetypes is to first understand yourself. So the Mayan cosmology, the Olmec Mayan cosmology system helps you to understand yourself, and then it helps you to understand the world that you're in. So it's twofold. So today's energy, while you are the blue solar hand and I'm
Mm-hmm.
the white resonant mirror, uh, today is an entirely different um, energy. Today is the blue energy as well, which is complementary for you. The white knight is all about dreaming and manifesting, and I really love that archetype. It's I really, that's one of my favorites, is the blue knight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, these archetypes help us to navigate the planet. It's not just so, you know, we know who we are or who the people around us are, but it also helps us to navigate the planet. So the Olmec Mayan cosmology system has a calendar that's made into a game board. I think this is brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a game board that every single day you move all the pieces. So you move the piece that represents yourself, I mean, the day, and then the complements of the day. So it's all a very intricate science, cycles within cycles. You know, that's what our ancestors always recognize, cycles within cycles. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would that be found in the Mayan Oracle book, by the way? The like how it's set up like a game, you said? Would that be found in that book?
Um, no, that's another entire piece of the system.
Mm-hmm.
The calendar is one piece. Um, the game board is called Telektanon. The game
Telectanon.
board is
Okay.
another piece, and the Mayan Oracle book, that's another piece. And I'm sitting here looking at it because I have these items on my sort of study center altar library sitting in front of me every single day, and they're quite fun. It just helps you to learn the science in a fun way. I really wish that the Kemetic system, you know, they have oracle cards, which is great. So I've done your Kemetic reading as well. Do you
Mm.
remember what that was?
The Oracle read, yeah, the Hiru Kuti, Tiamat, Tuhuti Hetep.
Right. So when you read Herukuhuti Ma'at, or you said Tem Ma'at,
Mm-hmm.
you understand, you know, you understand certain words. So it's not that difficult if you understand at least part of the words. You know, Heru is in the word Herukuhuti.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're familiar with Heru, so you just break it down, Heru, and then the second part is Kahuti. And the thing with Heru Kahuti
Mm-hmm.
is Heru Kahuti is the enforcer of the laws. Personality types will be police officers and, you know, military people and judges and people that enforce the laws of Ma'at.
Spot on. Spot on. I was just reviewing and reading, getting to learn the Hirukuti, if I pronounce that correctly.
Heru is one
Heru
word. Say
Heru
Heru Kahuti.
Heru Kahuti
And then the other word is
Tim Mat.
Ma'at is 2 syllables.
Oh, Ma'at.
Ma'at.
Yeah, and then the other one is Tihuti Hetep.
Kahuti Hetep, which is like a perfect balance. There's 3 archetypes there. There's Heru Kahuti. Well, Ma'at is sort of like, if you look at a deck of regular playing cards, you know how you have the king and then you have the suit, the heart, or the club, clover, or the diamond. That's what the Ma'at, the 10 Ma'at, the last word out of the 3 words, that's what that is. Okay. So it's actually 2 archetypes in your Olmec Mayan incarnation objective. I'm not Olmec Mayan, but your Kemetic. It's called the incarnation objective because that is what tells you what your purpose is. And, you know, in an indirect way, the Olmec Mayan tells you what your purpose is too, but you have to read into it to really understand it, because some people think your purpose is to be a policeman or a lawyer or something like that. But that's not really what one comes here and incarnates to be, because those are man-made constructs. So if you're coming from a celestial realm, you're not really coming to be a writer or an actor or a producer. You're coming to do something. You know, you might be an actor, but you're actually doing something through your acting. So that's what these archetypes also help you to learn about yourself and what your purpose is. And for your incarnation objective, because that's what that word means. Why did I incarnate here? What is the objective of this particular incarnation that I find myself in? And yours is Heru Kahuti Tem Ma'at and Tahuti Hetep. And so it sort of balances it out, because Heru Kahuti is the enforcer of the laws and Tahuti is the wisdom, the wise information, you know, the wise sort of knowledge and wisdom. Sort of, I always think of my ancestors and their wisdom is very much Tahuti, because the Maduna books, you know, the extended title is the Oracle Hub Tahuti. So it's the wisdom. Tahuti as an archetype was a high priest, and he was he's always side by side with the king. But then if you know the story of Asar and Aset, and again, it's something that we personalized, and it could very well be true that these people lived, but it's similar to the stories that we read about Jesus. They could be taken metaphorically or they can be taken literally. There is evidence on the pyramid walls in, you know, Kemet or Egypt, if you want to call it that, where there's images of these people. So it would make one believe that they did live, because these images are very, very old and they're ancient. And so the stories are written inside of these temple walls. And the whole story of Osar and Osed and their son Heru and Heru Kahuti and Tahuti, if you're interested in that, it's in the Maduna Volume 1. And it's a good way for us to personalize these archetypes and then understand how we fit in that realm.
Got it. To understand all this information, by the way, that is still a learning curve for me, is that I'm coming from a background of judgment. So when I hear the whole Mayan oracle and the Maduna Tir and the incarnation, it's like I just want to be in harmony with the information I'm receiving. Because like you said, there's no good and bad in this information that you receive, and it's a way to guide you through this lifespan, correct?
Correct.
Got it.
What did you mean when you say you come from a place of judgment?
Because when I hear like the how can I say, you was expressing something earlier, the blue solar hand and everything else, is like there's a lot I resonate with, and then it's like, okay, if I'm resonated with it, like who's like I would like to get familiar with the red earth and the yellow human the whole family that you mentioned there. So all this is new, that the judgment part, it's always on this. I guess I'm coming from like a Western thinking, is like, you got the left and the right, but when you hear this kind of information, there's all the barriers of judgment is just down. And who can I relate with, who can I be able to relate with in order to live out my purpose and their purpose.
I guess I understand. You're saying that you have to release your judgment of them in order for you to open yourself up to learn these different disciplines?
Yeah, I wish I could explain it in better words, because once again, I'm going back to the zodiac. I guess I'll go a little bit deeper. When going to the zodiac, just expressing that I'm a Gemini is already judgment cast on me, on the behavior and traits of a Gemini, or even getting to know someone else. I'm breaking barriers of just being in relationships with people, just to get to know people, not because I familiarize with myself with a lot of Scorpio and Aries, but I know that's not all it when understanding this information here.
Oh, so you're saying that it feels like when you're putting people in these personality types that you're judging them because
Correct.
you felt that has been done to you.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, that's the whole thing. I think that we need to do a whole episode on that judgment scene, because in the last episode we touched on it and there was an image up there of the Kemetic temples, but I really wanted to show the judgment scene on the walls of the pyramids. There's a judgment scene where there's a scale, where there's a heart on one side of the scale and there's a feather on the other side.
Okay.
And the short saying for that image is, let your heart be as light as a feather. But in the Kemetic sciences and indigenous sciences, they recognize that every single day you have to weigh your heart on the scale, and when you go to sleep at night in the Kemetic sciences, you ask yourself the 42 laws of Ma'at. Did I do this? Did I do that? Did I wrong someone? Did I make someone cry? Did I steal something? So this is called 42 laws of Ma'at. So when you study the Meduna Tear, it gives you these self-disciplining guidelines to be able to judge yourself on a daily basis. So the whole idea of staying out of judgment, I think that, again, comes from a society that is quite dysfunctional and not our own. So I don't subscribe to it. I do think it's important for us to make these judgment calls, for us to I think that there's such a thing as unfair judgment, like the person that just walked up to you and said, because you're a particular zodiac sign, that you're bipolar. That's coming from a place of misinformation, or the word really that applies is ignorance. And there's nothing wrong with the word ignorance. It just means that you don't have that information, but you're speaking about it as if you know. So the best thing that everyone can do is, before you try to judge other people, understand the principles that you're relating to and you're under the system that you want to judge them. Because you will never hear me tell somebody not to judge me. You will never hear anybody say that. That does not affect me. When someone walks up to me and say, oh, you're a Scorpio, so you're a sex fanatic, I say, well, that is one aspect of Scorpio. I said, but, if you really understand astrology, you know that there's different aspects of it, that balance out that the negative shadow side of Scorpio, because everyone associates Scorpio with a very negative side, so yeah, I deal with that too. But because I am informed and, I'm in control of my emotions, it does not affect me. And I'm able to use that moment as a teachable moment for the person that is misjudging. It's okay to judge me, but if you're misjudging me based on your own lack of information, then I will take it upon myself to try to educate you in that moment.
Got it. So all this is really beautiful when it comes to what the ancestors left for us, because at my age, I'm still learning. I would have thought I would have known this when I was like in my teenage years, but it's like I'm still trying to understand information. I do resonate with it, where when it comes to being in the front line, soldier, the archetypes that come with the hero kuti. I'll just dive in my notes and just writing what's out from the Meduna Tier Volume 1. So I didn't get a chance to cover the Tehuti, or if I have to cover the Tim Mayat also.
Well, of course, this is very selective. This is, you know, because I chose not to learn all the intricacies of astrology because it was a very high science, and all, you know, I don't really feel like I have to prove that I'm every woman. I don't need to know everything. I leave it up to the people that are drawn to it, because it didn't attract me. It didn't. I never actually said I didn't believe in it, but it didn't draw me to it. It didn't attract me. The Olmec mind cosmology system and the Kemetic spiritual system connected with me, and so in a way that astrology did not. So it's okay to not know it. You don't have to know it. You know, if it's not calling out to you, you know, I was very much called to the Olmec mind cosmology. That's why I identify myself as Kemetic and Olmec. That's why my name is, you know, Aset Edsnab, because I very much know and I pay attention to the callings out of my ancestors, and they called me to those two high sciences. So I learned them as much as I could. I practiced them on a daily basis, and that's why I identify myself with my names being Olmec and Kemetic, but also Yoruba. I was very much called to Yoruba through African dance, Yoruba and Santeria. My family's from New Orleans. So I think it's called Cordon Bleu in New Orleans. And then, you know, in Haiti, it's called Vodun. And most people incorrectly know it as voodoo, but that's the incorrect name. Of course, you know, European people have been mislabeling our high sciences for a very long time. So if you actually really want to know about it, you would study it and learn that the proper names to begin with. And, you know, they have a system as well. I was originally called to the high sciences of our ancestors through African dance. When I started doing African dance and that African drum started speaking to me, I was starting to be contacted and communicated with through the rhythm of the drum. Wow. And I had, you know, elders informing me that I had a particular energy, and they were saying, well, you have this energy and you really, you know, would do well to study it. So I did start studying, you know, Yoruba and Santeria, but it also led me to the Kemetic, because they're all related. You know, we like to say that because we're in different parts of the world and speak different languages, that these things are different, but they're not, because the same pyramids that you find in ancient Kemet, you find them in this continent, North and South America as well.
Exactly.
And so those sciences are very connected to each other. I like to connect them all the time. You know, I connect the Olmec mind with the Kemetic because I personally want to always associate these sciences with each other, pyramid building civilizations. So are you familiar with any of the Yoruba or Santeria orishas?
No, not as yet. No. I want to ask about what does Aset mean? I meant to ask you that.
Oh, Alex, you read the Meduna Tear Volume 1. Did you just read it and discard it?
No, I did not discard it. I just want to be able to express on this conversation, what does Aset pretty much, what resonated with you with Aset when you was getting that reading?
I was never given an Aset reading.
Oh, okay.
I accepted the name Aset because it was a long journey that I was on to find a name. And I didn't really proactively search. I just put it in my consciousness. Once I started studying African culture and spirituality and understanding how we were dominated and controlled and brainwashed by the European colonization system, I said, oh, okay, my last name is the name Lombard, is a slave master. And, you know, my parents named me Cassandra Lombard, Helen Lombard. And Cassandra with a K is definitely a Greek name. Helen is a Greek name. We all know Helen of Troy. A lot of us who study the Greek mythology know Cassandra is a princess. And She was in a royal family where she was a seer. She was a prophet. She could see the future. She could foretell the future. And because of that, throughout history, the dominant male societies labeled her as crazy.
Oh wow.
And so, yeah, so the name Cassandra comes with that stigma of knowing the truth, because she foretold the war on Troy. If you know anything about Greek history or Greek mythology, because there's a question as to whether or not these things actually happened because it's been so long ago. But everybody knows Zeus. Everybody knows Persephone. Everybody knows a lot of those Greek Andromeda, Greek gods and goddess, because it is considered a Western configuration. But in truth, once you study it, you'll understand that the Greeks learned everything they learned from the ancient Kemetic people.
Wow.
So the Greek mythology system that we learn in school, which is pushed by Western societies to be the actual, the only, and a lot of the superheroes that we get from Marvel and DC Comics are fashioned and modeled after these Greek gods and goddesses. Uh, One movie called Clash of the Titans. It was really impactful for me as a youth because I liked the whole idea of a spiritual system that dealt with archetypes. The Bible is something similar. The Bible has archetypes. Um, However, I think that a lot of the information has been suppressed in that system because you're not allowed to even associate yourself with those archetypes. Like indigenous people don't have a problem with calling their children Jesus. But you'll find that in Western society, they don't name their children after the archetype. So Aset is the name of an archetype. And for the equivalent of that would be like a Jesus, because she's the queen. She is the her symbol is the throne. She's married to the king, Oser. She has a son, Heru. She's a part of the whole pantheon of sort of a monarchy. So it's very similar to, the Greek mythology stories. And once you start studying all of these archetypes, you'll see where they all fit in and complement each other. And basically, if you tell a story to a person in one part of the world, by the time it gets to the other part of the world, it's changed. That's basically what has happened. So Aset is one. Yeah, Aset is one of the archetypes. The name translates specifically to mean a seat, Aset, because in the Kemetic language, there's no vowels. So it would be Ast. Ast is the correct name. But like I said, it was my journey to find that name. It was given to me through my ancestors. It wasn't my incarnation objective. My incarnation objective, like yours, that I gave you, that you spoke about earlier, is Oser Hetep. So when you have a Hetep for the first card, which is the balance energy, it's balance. Hetep is balance. It's not negative or positive. And Oser is so that means that my incarnation objective is to embody Oser. And that's kind of everybody's, but mine specifically is to embody Oser. And as Aset, I felt like they complemented each other. But again, that's multifaceted as well, because my clan is Heru clan. And in the Heru clan, these are the business-minded people. So it's almost like my existence on this planet is a combination of Asar, Aset, and Heru. So that's the Holy Trinity.
Got it. So when receiving and studying this information, the tree of life, like, how does the tree of life be able to work all together so it could be able to function in this lifespan? So if I'm a Hiru Kahuti, pronounce that correctly, and I'm understanding this information and I go out there and go live it, once I be able to build relationships with others out there, I'm looking forward to, like, when you hear the tree of life, you will think, to me, I will think like you bring everything together so it could be able to activate for a higher purpose. Does that when you hear tree of life, does that resonate with you in any kind of way when it comes to tree of life, of how to use the tree of life to the full extent?
Yes, it's perfectly outlined, the Tree of Life, in the Mundunatare Volume 1,
Mm-hmm.
but in all the other volumes, there's 7 volumes. All the other 6 volumes sort of elaborate on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the particular one that helps you to move up the Tree of Life and understand all of the archetypes that are on the tree, that I'm using is Meduniter Volume 4, the Osirian Resurrection. So when you say how you use it, I think that before we even get into the idea of being compatible with other people, we
Mm-hmm.
need to really spend a lot of time on learning ourselves first. So it would be a matter of you studying your archetypes, understanding who they are. Meaning when you put the book down, you're able to talk about it without hesitation, with conviction, and know that what those archetypes mean, and then working on the Tree of Life meditation system all year round. It's an all year round system that you work on year after year after year after year. And then that would be the appropriate time to start working with someone else, hopefully, who's also working on themselves and elevating themselves through the Tree of Life. There's other systems, if not the Tree of Life. I'm perfectly open to, merge my life with people who are on a similar path. It doesn't have to be the same path,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely want to combine my energies with someone who's actually on a path of, self-improvement and elevation, and doing some critical thinking about themselves. Um, so currently,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at volume 4 in the Tree of Life meditation system, we are in the time period of the law of Amen. And this time period goes from February the 21st until March the 20th. So until March the 20th, we're working on the law of Amen. And there's exercises, meditations, and you do this throughout that time period. And then, when the next time period comes along, you're working on you're working on the law of Osir. And if you look at the Tree of Life, I think in the Kabbalah, there's something very similar. Um, but
Yes.
the image of the Tree of Life has not all of the archetypes in the Kemetic pantheon. There's more that are not on the Tree of Life, but the ones on the Tree of Life are the primary archetypes that, if you not only understand who you incarnated as, but you're also learning to embody all of these elements of these other archetypes. See, that's the importance of not saying I'm just a Scorpio, or I'm
Yeah.
just Herukuhuti, or I'm just Tahuti. But there's a time to be Herukuhuti, and then there's a time to be Amen. There's a time to be the enforcer of the laws, and then there's a time to just be peace. You know what I
Got it.
mean? So that's the beauty of navigating, all of these sciences as you live through life.
Got it.
Understanding when it's okay for me to pull out the different archetypes. Because some people will say, well, I don't have a creative bone in my body. That's not true. You just haven't developed it.
Mm.
So, if you do a little bit more of Oshun work or Heteru work, and those archetypes that have something to do with creativity, if you do more work, you'll find that these elements of yourself could be blossomed and called upon, because you don't have to be a fiery sex pot just because you're a Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
I can be balanced, and I can be very much a great leader, and I'm not just, sexual. I can be Osset. I can be, Heteru. I can be different. I can be Oser. I
Got
can
it.
be the woman king. I can be all of these things. So it doesn't really.
Limits you. It doesn't limit you to like one thing.
Exactly. It's
Got it.
limitless. And
Got
that's
it.
with the archetype in the Olmec Mayan, the mirror. That's what it also means, endlessness.
Got it. Got it. Okay. You mentioned about the Ashun work. If I pronounce that correctly, and it was a type of work. You meant meditation, correct? Like the meditation type of work, correct?
Meditation is one part of
Mm-hmm.
work. When I say the work, in the volume 4 of the Medunataire, it lays it out for you really well. And it applies to all of these different indigenous sciences. All indigenous sciences have work. They all have work. They never just exist just so that we can walk around saying that I know this or I know that. They actually have work for you to do on a daily basis so that you can balance yourself out and navigate this world for success. And so the work includes meditation, but it also includes some journaling. It also includes some breath work, and breath work is associated with meditation. But, there's also visualization that has to do with meditation. There's also diet and nutrition. So all of these things that, we're now learning as the self-help industry are, definitely a part of these ancient indigenous sciences for compatibility, because that's what it all adds up to. Like, you can't really get along with somebody else if you're not working on yourself. If you're just out here in this world
being mad for no reason, fire with fire.
And that's what, the intention of religion was that, but it has gotten so distorted, So a lot of people are moving away from organized religions and learning these other high sciences, which religion is actually based on. Because when you read the Jesus story, Jesus is an archetype that also represents a celestial body. Some people say the sun, the sun, not, it was never meant to be the SON, but it's okay that we want to identify, the celestial beings as a form like ourselves, because we're a very physical society right now. We're very physical. We're overly physical, really. And so I think it's okay for us to identify but I think that we also have to keep in mind that these archetypes may or may not have a physical body. They may not, like God. So to associate the word God, which is a title, it was never meant to be the name of one deity, which Jesus and God are deities. They are archetypes. God being the overall conception of creation, and the thing that harmonizes everything, that the interconnectedness of everything, because we're all connected. We're connected to the earth and the water and the sun and the planets. We're all connected. And so that brilliance of interconnectedness is what people call God. So some people have learned to summarize it as the universe, but to want to humanize God, I think, is a disservice, because it narrows God down to a man.
Yeah.
And none of the indigenous sciences do that. None of them do that, because you can have, different principles within yourself, but be in a physical form. But we are physical forms. And I think it minimizes the idea and the greatness and the omnipresence. We speak these words, but we don't associate them with the indoctrination that we've been taught. Like, we know that God is omnipresent, omnipotent, all these omnis, and omni means multi-directional. But then we try to squeeze God into a little box and say that, okay, so God is only in love with people that speak the English language. Because if you speak Hindu and you say Hindu words when you're doing yoga, then that's the devil.
Yeah.
Or if you